Hi, I'm Daniel Lucas, and welcome to Book 101 Review. Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. He is CEO, COO, and operating partner, as well as a board advisor. No other than Mr. Joe Gerber. Welcome to Book 101, Mr. Joe, and can you please introduce more about yourself?
Sure. Thank you, Daniel, for having me. I spent the last 30 years in business, basically the first third in investment banking, doing merger and acquisition work. And then one of my clients hired me to run his company. And so for the last 20 years, I've been at the C level running 8 different companies for corporate boards, for family offices, and for private equity groups.
So, Mr. Joe, let's talk about or let's understand what a CEO coaching is all about. So, what is CEO coaching and how does it differ from traditional leadership training?
So CEO coaching, from what I've seen, comes into play either when you have a new CEO, first-time CEO, or when the CEO has strengths in one area, but just not necessarily weaknesses, but they're less experienced in another area. And so a CEO coach or a CEO shadow would augment the CEO in various areas.
So, Mr. Joe, what is the primary goals of CEO coaching?
So if you think about CEOs, when I've been hired to hire CEOs, right? You think about CEOs in 3 different groups, right? You have a sales CEO, you have, let's say, an engineering type CEO, and then you have a financial type CEO. And if you put them in these 3 buckets, um, then a sales CEO would be exceptional in terms of driving revenue, but may not really understand the working capital requirements or the financial requirements to achieve that growth, right? So I would shadow the CEO and help augment, the financial sort of deficits. Or for instance, you might have an engineering CEO that comes in either as a first-time CEO or has been running a company for a while and doesn't necessarily know how to scale the company, or they might be an introverted, right? And they might not like to go out and drive sales and meet with customers and so forth. So we discuss not only appreciating their strengths and weaknesses, but how we can coach and augment that.
What are the key challenges do CEOs typically face that coaching can address?
Sure. So I like your book emphasis of your podcast, and so I think the biggest thing that I keep seeing is if you sort of take some notes from the Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday. It's a book basically um, on pragmatism and on not necessarily getting caught up in the drama. It's a book about stoicism, but basically, right? The biggest challenge I've seen CEOs have is that they're hit with an obstacle, or there's drama, or there's something that's come up, and uh, I I help them basically um, see through these obstacles. And sometimes the obstacles are just growth, right? And other times the obstacles are maybe a problem with the product. But I think it's exceptionally important to coach the CEO to reframe problems not as growth setbacks, but as opportunities to either learn or pivot. Um, Emotional judgments cloud direction, or emotional reactions cloud judgment, and reactions aren't necessarily valuable. right? It's really about collecting the data around the situation, planning a path forward, and executing. So really, the disciplined, persistent adaptability are qualities that I try to instill with the CEO. And that creates sort of great focus around what they're trying to do and then allows them to be excellent.
Very well said, Mr. Joe. Very well said. So you are recommending the book of Mr. Ryan Holiday to read.
I just find that what he does is he translates Stoic philosophy of Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, to everyday practical use. And in it, he draws basically comparisons with presidents and generals and advocates for sort of pragmatic Stoic approach to everyday issues.
Yes, people, I featured Mr. Ryan Holiday in my first season, so please listen to it. So let's talk about coaching process and techniques. What are the most effective coaching methods used for CEO?
I believe the most important one is sort of teaching by story. So I've had lots of experiences in lots of different industries, and I wouldn't say I've seen it all, but whether I've seen it or I know somebody that has seen it, the reality is that most CEOs that I've coached are just first-time CEOs, and the biggest issue is that they don't know what they don't know,
Yes.
right? So how getting them comfortable with the idea that nothing is unattainable, right? That everything is within their reach. It's about problem solving. It's about sort of understanding how to get to the right answers. And that discussion and storytelling, it helps tremendously.
Certainly. Totally agree, Mr. Joe. So how do CEO coaches assess as a leader's strengths and areas of improvement?
Sure. I think it starts with a lot of Q&A up front and then checking in along the way. So my first goal with a CEO where I'm coaching is to really allow them in a safe space to open up about their concerns, where they feel like they're deficient going forward, and talk to them about ways to shore that up, and then work with them on basically the monthly plan to go forward, and then to have check-ins. And the check-ins are effectively, do they have the tools they need? Are they looking at what's in front of them in a way that where they feel powerful and they feel like it's achievable? And if not, then we discuss people, resources that we may bring in to help support them.
So what role?
I can give you. Oh,
Yes, go ahead.
sorry for interrupting. I was going to give you a good example. So, at one time I was a CEO and I was running a company in an industry I'd never done before, and so I was chosen to go in. And one of the objectives was to be a thought leader in the industry. And that meant that I had to go on speaking tours, I had to do press tours, I had to develop narratives, and I had never done that before. So I worked with a PR firm, I was press trained, and we ran through a number of scenarios, and that was just thrown in my toolkit. So forevermore, I have that tool. And I look at coaching in that way. So if a CEO is now sort of facing what it means to speak to the press or get out in front of an association, I can either talk to them about what I learned, or I can connect them with the people that can provide the same training.
So, Mr. Joe, which one do you prefer, being a CEO or coaching a CEO, or both?
Well, you asked me what I prefer, and I really enjoy leading companies. I really do. But I think being a CEO means that you also have to coach, right?
Yes.
I look at an organization typically as being upside down. The CEO is not the manager. The CEO is the one that supports everybody else and facilitates their needs. And if I can migrate the CEO into that mental framework, I think the CEO will be much, much more successful.
So, what role does emotional intelligence play in CEO coaching?
Oh, I think it plays a very, very important role. And it's interesting because when I've coached CEOs that have uh, a high emotional quotient, and they're very, very able to sense, it's wonderful. It tends to work exceptionally well. For the ones that have a lower quotient, it's quite interesting because I'm I'm sensing what's working and what's not working for them, but sometimes they're not in tune with that either, and it becomes a bit more difficult to coach because I I think awareness, going back to a CEO being a supportive role, if they're in that supportive role, but they're not necessarily sensing where to be at the right time, or who needs support, or what departments need support, uh, that's something that can be coached, but it's a bit more difficult.
Certainly. So, what are the some common mindset shift that coaching helps CEOs achieve?
One mindset I've talked about on other podcasts, that I always employ, either going into a coaching situation or going into a company, stepping in as CEO, and that's sort of the concept of beginner's mind. Uh, if I approach a person or a situation as curious without preconceived ideas, I allow myself to understand much better where that person is. And I think that helps tremendously, not only with the coaching, but used the same way when I go into a company to fix the company and then to accelerate the growth, hopefully for an exit. Uh, I go in the same way. I interview everybody from the management on up. I understand what's working and what's not working. And by asking a lot of questions without any agenda, you'd be surprised. It ends up being sort of a mass therapy session,
Mhm.
and people end up talking very openly about what's working and what's not. And it allows me to really assess the team, the culture, the company, and very quickly reset all of that for growth.
So, Mr. Joe, let's talk about impact on leadership and business performance. How can CEO coaching enhance a leader's communication and influence?
Well, uh, I think that the most important thing for a CEO to do, uh, is have clarity around the vision, the purpose, the strategy, because without that, they can't communicate that effectively. So, if sort of going back to Ryan Holiday's book, uh, if we agree that the CEO's action and the corporate actions should be disciplined and persistent and should be very adaptable, what prevents that is when things aren't clear, right? The messaging's not clear, the understanding of the problem isn't clear, understanding of the strategy isn't clear. So clarity is number one. And behind that, it's clear purpose, clear direction. It's a clear plan for each department. I think that's sort of top of list.
Yes, certainly, totally agree, mister. And what are the most effective method used for CEOs for coaching?
Method?
Yes,
Oh, for coaching CEOs. Well,
yes.
there's a lot of different methods of coaching. Um, there's actually lots of training, that coaches use, and um, I uh, particularly uh, have gone in and coached CEOs in the earlier phase of their work, meaning either as a first-time CEO or as a sort of a shadow to restructuring. So I'll run a 100-day plan with them. It's a very focused plan to assess sort of all aspects of the organization and then to chart the direction. There's other frameworks that are used by other coaches. For instance, um, when you have in the venture world, you have co-founders, and oftentimes co-founders at some point in time have a falling out. They were friends going in, and then something blows up, and not only is it sort of an issue with them, but it's an issue within the company and the culture and so forth. So I have friends that are coaches that are really specialized in that area, and that's more, the psychology coaching. How do you mend what's broken, and how do you sort of come back to an aligned path. And there's a lot of other aspects to coaching, like I mentioned, that there's sort of PR training. And I would encourage CEOs to not approach coaching or coaches as a one size fits all. There's coaches that really specialize in various aspects of being a CEO, and I think it's really important to understand uh, the needs of the CEO, and then that CEO go out for the proper coaching.
So, Mr. Joe, in your experience, can CEO coaching help improve a company's culture and employee engagement?
Absolutely. I found a number of times that often they say it's sort of lonely at the top, right? And what comes with that is, at the end of the day, the CEO is the leader, the thought leader, the one charging the hill on a daily basis. Um, I recommend that the CEO have a peer advisory group, or folks that he or she um, can commiserate with, uh, um, and that will oftentimes allow the CEO to view the culture, the people, the issues in a way that's not sort of one-sided, one-pointed sort of vision. Um, I also found the first time I was a CEO, I ran that company for 9 years. The reality is it's tough to get out of bed every day and put on a happy face and walk into the company and welcome everyone and say happy Monday, happy Tuesday. We're charging the hill today. Uh, so for the culture, there's tools that I've used um, allow CEOs, and even to allow myself to be authentic in expressing optimism, disappointment in a way that a culture can benefit from. And because I've also seen firsthand CEOs and founders that the culture sort of rides the highs and lows, and it can become quite dysfunctional, and it can be really wear on the employees. So I'm always aware of uh, cultural aspects of CEO engagement. Uh, the CEO can influence, and I did a lot of work in my my concentration for my MBA was in organizational behavior. So I did that because I was just very curious as to why departments either talk to each other or don't talk to each other. And because of that, when I've run 8 companies, and when I've gone into each company, I've found a different culture. And I work very hard to be authentic, but also to expect that the people working with me are also authentic and also are able to have, for instance, crucial conversations, right? Another great book, if anyone's ever read that. It's a phenomenal book. It basically causes the reader to think about how do they clearly and concisely communicate the needs. And I've caused most of the companies I've run or most of the managers of the companies I've run to read that book.
Yes, very well said, Mr. Joe. Very well said. And what would be your advice for those people out there who want to be a CEO in the future?
Go for it. It's there's no reason not to decide to lead a company. And the only don't talk yourself out of it. The role of visionary, I think, becomes a lot easier if you think about it in terms of authenticity and excitement. And if you bring authenticity and excitement to a role, and you view the role as CEO as being supportive and not managerial, you'll have a much easier time and a lot more fun.
Definitely. People stop procrastinating. If you have the ambition to be a CEO, go, 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 like Mr. Joe Gerber. So, what would be your short term and long term goals as a CEO?
It really depends on the company and whether you're the founder or whether you're stepping in as CEO. The reality is that growth is difficult for a lot of reasons, and it takes capital, it takes a lot of drive and effort, but even more so, a CEO has to wear lots of hats. They have to be the visionary at the same time as being ultimately responsible for the financials, for the financial health of the company, for the people, for the product, being the customer's agent in protecting what the customer receives, right? Whether it's a service or product. And so, the CEO has to balance all of these things, and carving out time each week where they have alone time to create that balance, I think, is extremely important.
Certainly, very important. So, Mr. Joe, are you the CEO that the you if the company want to lessen your salary, just make the company afloat? Are you the one like that? Are you sacrificing?
That I would take a lesser salary
Yeah,
to
to make
run a company.
yes, to make the
Um,
company afloat.
so it's a good question. I think that if I founded the company,
Yes,
right? If I founded the company, uh, I think that you have most, if not all, of the equity, right? The company's purpose ultimately is to build shareholder wealth. And if you own the company, then right.
sure.
So sacrificing your salary it might be the right answer to bridge the company to greater wealth of the company, and therefore greater wealth for you. Um, I think that in making decisions around compensation, whether it's a founder CEO or uh, it's a CEO that's hired in, right, is a hired gun. Um, creating compensation that promotes or is effective in providing the outcomes that that are planned is really key. Whether it's for the CEO or whether it's for somebody that's taking any other role in the company, right? And everyone in the company, in my belief, has to understand why they get out of bed in the morning, why
Certainly.
they show up at work, how do they protect the customer experience, right? And so if they know that, and if they believe that they have a real value in doing that, and they're compensated to achieve that, then everything's aligned.
Certainly. So, Mr. Joe, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, Food 101, in its fifth season. People, fifth season with Chef Alessandro, one of the executive chef or specialty chef in one of the five-star hotel in downtown Toronto. Please do listen to our latest episode. We are reading our letter senders all over the world. So please do listen, Food 101, wherever you listen your podcast. So, Mr. Joe, how can a CEO ensure they get the most value from coaching?
Understanding that the coaching is typically in a safe space, they just need to be open, right? Yeah, coaching doesn't work unless the CEO is open about who they are and what they know and what they don't know, what they're excited about, what they're afraid of, right? The openness is key.
Certainly, Mr. Joe Gerber. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge to the world. And I hope you will empower more and more and more companies to the world. So can you please invite our listeners to support your company that you're running?
I'm working with a number of equity groups right now and doing project and advisory work. So.
Okay, so where do people can catch you?
My company is HoyeristicAdvisors.com. It's a business consulting company, or find me on LinkedIn. I'm easily found there.
Yes, people, let's support Mr. Joe Gerber because you support him, more companies will be empowered. So, Mr. Joe, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Daniel. Have a good day.
More to come, people. See you soon.